Today, we're going to talk about client psychology and how important it is to the success of your music career. Hey everyone, I'm Colt Caparoon. Thank you for stopping by for another video. This is maybe not the most fun topic to talk about, but it's arguably the most important topic to talk about. Because if your clients like the way that they're treated, and if they had a good time working with you, then the likelihood of them telling other people that they should work with you, and the likelihood of them coming back to you for future work, it's a lot better if they enjoyed working with you and if you were good at handling them and good at maintaining a good headspace for them throughout the process. So today, I would like to discuss some things that I have learned, some tricks to trick people's psyche into getting them to perform better. It's been a massive part of how I have gotten where I am. And at this point, I need to add it up, but it's been thousands and thousands of songs, probably thousands of people that I've worked with. Maybe not thousands of artists or thousands of bands, but between, every band has 5 or 6 members in it. We're probably well over 1,000 actual musicians that I've handled over my 21 year music career. So I just want to pass some of this on to you guys. Now, the first thing that I kind of didn't expect about this is that I would act as a psychiatrist or psychologist. I don't actually know the difference. A therapist. Let's go with the word therapist. I would act as a therapist to a shocking number of artists. Mostly singers, because in order to get the right performance out of a singer, they have to be in the right mental state. And as a producer, it's our job to get them into that mental state so that way they can perform the very best. Now, being a therapist to artists doesn't necessarily mean solving their problems for them. A lot of times, it just means listening and sympathizing with them, understanding the struggles that they're going through, understanding how difficult it is to become a successful artist, understanding how difficult it is to gain traction on social media, understanding how difficult it is to get a song to pop off and go viral or land on a playlist. And luckily, I have done these things all myself. And so it helps a lot. Even if I don't have advice to offer them, even if they're already trying everything that I would suggest, it helps a lot to just listen. If they seem like they're having a rough day when they come in, just ask them how their day is and just listen. And this can be the difference between a mediocre session and an incredible session. One, you should actually care about how they're doing, and you should actually care about the success of their music and of them as artists. But then them being confident that you care is a big deal to them being able to come in here and pour themselves emotionally into the music. It's a big deal. And of course, if you do have some advice to offer, if you have had experience in a situation that they're struggling with, of course, offer that advice. But it has a lot to do with just making them know that you really care, that you want the very best for them, and you should actually want the very best for them. So I'm just gonna kind of go through a bunch of things that have kind of hit me over the years that are important from a psychological perspective. The next one is that as soon as you get, I've learned this one the hard way, as soon as you get in an argument with a client, your relationship is likely over. I have never, or maybe never, maybe there's been once or twice out of thousands and thousands of songs, but I'm pretty sure I have never worked on another song or another album with an artist or a band after getting in an actual legitimate argument with them about anything. It doesn't even really matter what it's about. It doesn't matter if it's scheduling conflicts or money or creative differences, or I think it should be sung this way and they think it should be sung this way. As soon as you, and this is what I want to pass on to you guys, as soon as you escalate things, or as soon as you as a producer or a mixer, or regardless, a session player or anything, as soon as you allow a situation to escalate into an argument, it's over. That relationship is usually gone beyond repair. And you may be cordial. You may give each other hugs in the future when you see each other out at the club or out at the bar. But you will probably never work on another piece of music for that artist again. And they will likely never tell anyone else that they should use you to create their music. So whatever you do, however much you disagree, however much you think the artist is wrong, whatever the situation is, don't let it escalate to an argument. And how I do this is I remember that I get to make music for a living. I get to create art for a living. I get to pay my mortgage because I'm making art. And how fortunate I am to be in this situation, to be able to say that I make music for a living. I recognize how fortunate I am to say that, and at the end of the day, it's their art. And at the end of the day, I am just happy to be a part of it, even if I would have done something different. And I try to remember that, so that way it never escalates into a full-blown argument. Now, the next thing that I do, and this is primarily when it comes to accepting new clients, I will not accept a new client for production, mixing, or mastering if they have not listened to my playlist or if they are not familiar with my work. There's a playlist in the description below that has a whole bunch of music that I've worked on. And if someone has not listened to that and they are not familiar with that, then I'm not gonna work on their music. Because at this point in my career, let me back up a second. There was a time for many, many years when I just had to take everything that came through the door because I needed to pay my bills. And at this point in my career, I no longer need to take every project that's offered to me. I actually turn most of them down. I turn most of them down because it's not a good fit for me. My creative vision for music and whatever the artist is trying to accomplish aren't necessarily aligned. And I have the great privilege of being able to turn down a bunch of work because of that. However, I still think 10 years ago, when that wasn't the case, I really should have been more adamant about if someone wants me to produce for them or mix for them, less so in mastering, but definitely producing and mixing, they need to be familiar with my work and like it, and they need to want me to impart my tastes and my character into their music. I don't want to be hired just because I happen to have a studio or I happen to be a producer that makes music. I want to be hired because of my taste and because of my ability. And if they've never heard the music that I've worked on, then they don't know my taste or my ability. And that can usually lead to problems and creative differences down the line where I have a thing that I do. And it's not that I'm not flexible. It's not that I don't try to be versatile. I actually feel like I'm very versatile, but I still have a thing that I do. And if that is the opposite of what an artist wants, they should not hire me because it won't work out well for either of us. So have clients listen, have prospective clients listen to your music before you agree to work with them. Okay, so the next thing is when you're in the room, you've gotten through all of this and you're in the room with the client and you're actually working on music. You're hitting record and they're singing, they're playing guitar, whatever it is. I try very, very hard to never say anything negative to the artist or the musician, regardless of what I want them to do differently, or regardless of how mediocre they may actually be at what they're attempting to pull off. I will never say anything negative to them. I will always offer positive suggestions. Hey, that sounded really great, but could you just try something for me? Could you sing it like this for me? And let's just see what that sounds like. If someone has a problem, and this is really common, lots of singers have vibrato in their voice that is out of nervousness. They have a lack of control. And they have more vibrato than they should have, or they put vibrato on every note, and that's not really a polished way to sing. And so rather than being like, hey, you need to knock that vibrato off, that doesn't sound good. It sounds like amateur when you put vibrato on every note. Hey, it just sounds like you're losing pitch because of all that vibrato that you're putting on there. Instead of saying things like that, I will say, hey, I wonder what it would sound like if we just sang this part of this line with 0 vibrato. I know it's going to be uncomfortable to you, but can you just try singing it with 0 vibrato? You know, there's different ways to handle different things. If someone's singing early, instead of being like, hey, knock that off, you're singing early, just turn to them and help them find the meter. So that way they can sing in time better. I never say anything negative to people in the room. I only phrase things. I only give propositions in a positive way for how they should alter their performances. Now, in addition to offering positive reinforcement to get them to alter something that I experience a whole lot and have for my entire career is struggling to get singers to sing with enough power during certain parts of a song or with enough aggression. Now, in my opinion, this usually is because they don't hear their voice nonstop in headphones. That's a perspective that's odd for a lot of singers. Even if they're very well rehearsed, and even if they're a very good singer, and even if they've played a ton of shows, likely hearing their voice through a crazy microphone, through crazy preamps, through a crazy compressor, in fantastic sounding headphones, this is a foreign situation to them. And a lot of times a singer will think that they need more of their voice in their headphones in order to sing well. But a lot of times that actually keeps them from singing with the power that is appropriate for the song. So something that I do very commonly is I will commonly edge down their vocal in their ears. And we're talking and I wouldn't do this with an extremely schooled singer or an extremely successful singer. But we're talking the kind of people that we likely work with day in and day out. We're not talking about Carrie Underwood here. We're not talking about like incredible. We're not talking about Adele here. We're talking about an artist who's maybe released a handful of songs or a couple albums, but they are not like an iconic vocalist. So I just want to make that clear. I wouldn't do this to everyone, but I will commonly very slowly edge their vocal down in their monitor to the point where they don't even notice it's happening. But usually what that will do is it will help them sing with more projection. They won't be as timid by hearing their voice that loud in the cans, and it will help them project in order to get the vibe across. So it's playing around with the balances in people's monitors, in their headphones, is a way to get them to react differently. Controversially, that's not even the right word. You know what I'm saying. If a singer is singing too loud and powerfully, and I want them to sing softer and with more nuance and with more subtlety, I will commonly turn their vocal up in their ears. So that way they can relax and they can chill and get across that like subtlety and the nuances that I want them to get across. Definitely on the psychology side, but it's how you engineer with psychology in mind. Now, I kind of touched on this earlier, but building trust is arguably the most important thing. What you want to do is you want to create an environment in your studio that fosters creativity. And usually what this means is reassuring people, and maybe not literally, but creating an environment and the vibe that you put out should be a reassuring one that allows people to freely express themselves in a creative manner. Because if people are nervous or self-conscious, they often will not try new and unique things. And our job as producers is to pull the personality out of the artist, to get them to be unique, to get them to find their sound. And so however we can approach these situations so that way the artist feels comfortable trying something that they maybe are self-conscious about, or singing in a way, or maybe hitting a note that they're self-conscious about or that they don't think they can hit. Conducting yourself in a way and creating the vibe in the room that allows people to feel comfortable trying new things. Really, really important. And the last thing that I would say is that crystal clear communication especially leading up to the project, is so important. Now, this is hard because there's no way for you to control how clear someone is communicating with you, but making sure that you fully understand what they're trying to accomplish and what they want and what they expect, that's a big deal. So I once worked with this band from out of state, and I was setting everything up through their manager. And their manager said that they were going to come down and do demos of music, of their new songs, so that way we could kind of just feel some stuff out and see what they wanted to put on their next EP or on their next record. And I said, great, that's awesome. Now, for those of you that don't know, a demo is supposed to be a very, kind of rough version of the song, just to convey the idea of the song so you can listen to it and be like, oh, this is the emotion that's coming across, this is the vibe, these are the rough melodies. Like, it's not necessarily supposed to be polished up in a way that is ready to be released. And so we spent 4 days working out demos for different songs and getting performances down. And then they went back home and I started sending them mixes, because I do actually still mix demos when I do demos, but it's at a rough level. I'm not giving my all in a demo mix, and there's almost never revisions in a demo mix because it's supposed to be a demo. Well, they just weren't happy. The artists themselves, the band members, and the manager, they just weren't happy with how this stuff was turning out, and they were requesting mix revisions, and I wanted to make them happy, and so I did the revisions requested and made the changes to the mixes, and this went back and forth on all 4 or 5 of the songs for quite a while. And finally I was like, look guys, this is about as far as I'm gonna take this since it's a demo, but I'm really pumped to work on these for real and to replace whatever we need to replace and get these ready to release once we decide which ones are gonna be released. And the band came back and they're like, what do you mean demo? We're releasing all of these. And I was like, what in the world? Because their manager made me to believe that these were supposed to be demos. I never once got told that these were supposed to be for release. And this is just one example of many things that have happened across thousands and thousands of songs. But this is a really good example of a massive communication breakdown. It was a communication breakdown between the band and the manager, and it was a communication breakdown between the manager and me. Now, what could I have done to prevent this? I could have just simply double checked with the band when they showed up what it was that we were trying to accomplish. It could have taken a 5-minute conversation, and I should have done that. So even though it wasn't my fault, I don't believe what happened, I could have done something to prevent it. And I think that this is an example of how you learn to communicate once enough things have gone wrong throughout your career. You learn to communicate in a way that covers all the bases. It makes sure everyone's on the same page. And so I hope that that story helped someone. There are links down below for a playlist of all the music, not all, a bunch of music that I've worked on. If you want to check some stuff out that I've worked on, listen to it for yourself. Atmos mixes will be getting added to that playlist very soon as they start to come out. I think my first Atmos mix comes out next week, and they will start rolling pretty quickly after that. In addition to there being links down below to a playlist, there's links down below to all the gear that I use. So if you're ever curious about the things that I use on what drum compressors, vocal microphones, studio monitors, whatever, there's links down below for literally all of it. And if you use any of those links, it goes a long ways to help support this channel. Those links do go to Sweetwater, and I just want to thank Sweetwater for sponsoring this portion of this video. So anytime you guys need any piece of musical gear whatsoever, you can jump on any one of my videos, click on any one of the links in the description, and once you're on the site, you can purchase anything that you need. But if you want to know exact pieces of gear that I use and that I've used on Billboard charting songs, you can hit the links in the description and check it out for yourself. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this portion of this video. And I hope that this video helped some of you. This psychology thing it's really important. I don't think most people understand how important this side of it is. And I'm sure I could have talked about a whole bunch more stuff, but those were the big ones to me. So I hope it helped you. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.